The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, hi everybody, and seems like we're seeing a lot of each other these days. I just want to mention we're checking on the. It should be a link tomorrow for 6:30, where we have the continuation for the people who have not had a chance to make their pledge regarding the esoteric United Nations, and a few more things that we'll want to discuss. And of course, that's not the end of it. If you have not had a chance to join us and making your pledge, but we'll provide time. And these days, basically, your thoughts are toward the three nations that DK says hold the fate or the destiny of humanity in their hands, namely the United States, the United Kingdom, and Russia. And then we'll provide you probably, I think, with a alphabetized list, and every day we'll provide you, with kind of a very brief meditation, and you'll be able to turn your soulful attention towards evoking the soul of the particular nation under scrutiny on any particular day. And it just goes on and on. It even goes through the conference. Yes. And I guess Joe found it in the chat box. So the link to register is the second oath-taking webinar. It's in the chat box, and tomorrow at 6:30 GMT. It's a Saturday. It'll be short and well, relatively short, an hour and a half at the most. And tonight, really, we're not going to go much beyond an hour at all. I have some commitments that I have to honor, and it requires a shorter session for this evening. So thanks for gathering, and let's see, I want to put Tuya over on the other side. Yep, okay, there we go. And welcome Annette, Asha, Barbara, and Brennan, Karsten, Catherine, Deborah, Diana, Frederick, Heike, Helena, Ishtar, wait a second, yeah, here we go, Ishtar, Yoke, and Yohi Lee, and Leslie Van, Marina, Mariut, Natni, Nesa, Risto, Raz, Stephen, and Stephen Renneberg, and Stephen Sprung, both. Welcome, Stevens, spelled differently. Suzanne, Vera, and Vide here in Finland, and Zenaidi and Veronica. And over on the other side, we'll have Joe and Michael Stacy helping, and Tuya will be over there as well. Okay, now, so as I said, this will be a shorter session. I have commitments right after 11 o'clock p.m. my time, so about an hour. And I just want you to sort of think about how big our present universe is. Now, of course, that's a question that no scientist can yet answer. But you're an esotericist, so you can stretch your imagination in that direction and see what strikes you. Well, the Buddhist wisdom tells us there's no great and there's no small, and yet we seem to be dealing with distances which at present are entirely impossible to cover, given the technology that we have. But what is being told to us in the Yoga Sutras is this whole thing, this whole universe is occurring within ourselves. Not that there's us or there are we within the universe, but that the whole internality and even externality of the universe is occurring within what we really are. Just, pause there for a second and think about that. And that in a very strange way, I'll give you a few oddities here. Nothing, no matter how seemingly far or close, is closer or farther than anything else. Is this nonsense, or is there something beneath all this? And going further, that nothing, whether it be huge or tiny, there is the limit, of course, to tininess in any universe. No true infinitesimal can be contained. That the big and the small are exactly the same size. And that size is one day to be understood the one and only ever lessening, ever reducing, ever lessening. So the universe, every universe, and there have been countless universes, resolves down to a point ever smaller than any definite object one can imagine, and is eventually absorbed into the super or supra universal state. Now, all that's a bit beyond, what concerns us, the control of the astral body and the disillusionment of the mental body, and things much closer to home, which we also have to attend to, and very much attend to, and which we have attended to forever in a cyclic manner. But sometimes truth can be stranger than fiction, and if you really develop your abstract mind, which is the objective of the next 2,000 years or so, then some of these far out thoughts that seem so contradictory to common sense will begin to make sense. And Einstein's view of common sense is not quite as sanguine as the Tibetans. The Tibetan calls it the sixth sense, and in a way it is, but Einstein calls it the accumulation of all prejudices in the mind up to the age of 17. So he didn't have such a sanguine view. Anyway, keep this in mind, because here we are, just as the Tibetan says, tiny microscopic man. Well, we are that. At the same time, literally, we are infinitely more than microscopic man, and the day will come when we know that to be the case. Now, we're laying the foundation in a treatise on cosmic fire. I've sent at least some of you the S1S1. I even forget what it stands for. But this is a sort of a new webinar based upon my commentaries that I have made over the years. And some, as I say, mostly when it comes to cosmic fire, mostly written commentaries for exactitude of thought, but the last 100 pages, which deal with the most far out and strange things, are vocal commentaries. And I just want to say a few things that I may have said before, because it has been a while since we've been together. So all of this is foundational. Now, if you're a true disciple, initiation faces you, some initiation or other. And the Tibetan divides initiations into three groupings. You and I do not face shambolic initiations. We do not face hierarchical initiations per se. We face the initiations that pertain to humanity. And those are initiations 1, 2, and 3. It was the rare individual in the Tibetans group, Alice Bailey, Roberta Saggioli, and maybe a couple more. Well, maybe those two had achieved it, the 3rd degree, and were ready for the great renunciation. And when you look at how they lived their life, you can see that the great renunciation was in progress. So it's impossible to tell from where we stand. We know that Saggioli was being prepared for the 4th initiation. Krishnamurti was taking it. Alice Bailey, well, what a life, you know. She renounced so much, and, you know, did she take that degree? Anyway, she stands at a high point in Master Kutumi's ashram and is the gatekeeper, so the story goes. The hierarchical initiations, Arhatship, number 4, Mastership, number 5, Chohanship, number 6. And there we recognize our masters of the wisdom and so forth. When it comes to shambolic initiations, the Christ and the Buddha are completing the first of them, and others who are great Buddhas may have completed number 8, and if we're talking about number 9, they're not going to be on the cosmic physical plane at this time any longer, because they have other things to do. So the 6th initiation is Chohanship, and we don't go into the gates of Shambhala unless we're a 6th degree initiate or a 5th degree initiate on the first ray under certain circumstances. See, the first ray is tied in with Shambhala, of course, and a 5th degree initiate may be allowed into Shambhala, but otherwise it's going to be the 6th degree. When it comes to masters, they are still members of the human kingdom in a way. They're also part of the, well, at least they're members of the human creative hierarchy. When they become Chohans, then that remains in question, but probably they still are. But what DK says of them, of Chohans, compared to masters, I know this is way beyond, okay, but he says, they are no longer men as are the masters. And you think of it, you know, the 5-pointed star, the Leonardo 5-pointed star man is in a way the symbol of the master, the number 5, and it's Venus that brings us very, very close to that attainment. That attainment, of course, is thousands of years ahead of us if we speed up. It tells us that we have to learn how to prepare ourselves for speed. Yeah, he uses the phrase organizing for speed. And he doesn't mean rush, he just means speed. And that there's a big difference there. There is no rush, no hurry, and nor is there any time to lose, say the rules of the road. He doesn't want us rushing around. At the same time, there's such a crying need that many initiates of the fifth degree are needed during the Aquarian age, which, as we know, will be that particular constellation, which is the focal point for the fifth ray. Right now, Leo is giving us the whole individualization process and the distinction of one human being from another. But the triangle will rotate. It's getting ready to rotate at the fifth ray triangle, and Aquarius will be on the top. So, and you know how far we've got the Buddhas of activity here. We've got the three esoteric Buddhas who are part of, I guess that's what they're called, the esoteric Buddhas, and or the esoteric Kumaras. We don't know much about them except that that circle of six does rotate. And we do know a very interesting thing, that the three Buddhas of activity are in a sacrificial mode. And can we talk about their initiations the way we can say, oh, here's a member of the human creative hierarchy becoming a solar life and taking the ninth initiation or something? I don't think we can. You know why? Because in a previous major solar system, and who knows for how long before that, these Buddhas of activity were planetary logoi. Now, if you're already a planetary logos and you're sacrificing to help your brother Sanat Kumara, who is the extension of the planetary logos of the earth, we cannot rank you as an initiate in the same way we would rank a human being. So the ninth degree seems like the end compared to what is offered in paradise or heaven. It's a huge stretch. But then again, paradise and heaven, the way usually conceived, are unfortunately childish notions. And we have to help humanity get beyond those very almost infantile conceptions without getting killed in the process, as there's a strong likelihood that when you offer truth, the sword returns in your direction. Okay, now as I say, as we go along, make a note, whatever may be of interest to you. I don't know how I jumped in there. I just have a bunch of, wow. Oh, there's so much. Okay, let me come down here. I think we dealt, the first fundamental of the secret doctrine is the boundless immutable principle. There is a boundless immutable principle. And it just doesn't change. And it is what we are, and it has no origin. Now think about that. Almost everything that we can conceive, we say, well, what's its cause? So this thing is the causeless cause, and it has no origin whatsoever. It's just the foreverness, if you, I mean, so many names you can call something that you don't want to give a name to, but there is the boundless immutable principle. And then there is the, I think we went over the work of the, what is it here? There is a law of periodicity. Okay, a basic law called the law of periodicity. And it absolutely, it contradicts the immutability of the boundless immutable principle, at least in terms of how we understand contradiction. And let's just say there would be no ultimate great breath if there was no law of periodicity. It's just, usually laws are the result of the will of some kind of great being. And can we call this law of periodicity the result of the will of the boundless immutable principle? Well, maybe not. Maybe we have to look at that which came from the boundless immutable principle, and we could call it the great deity or the absolute deity who sees itself as immutable homogeneity and also as absolute infinity. Let me repeat that. There is something, the greatest of all gods, because I don't consider the boundless immutable principle as a god. There is something that emerges periodically from the boundless immutable principle without, and this is the mystery, changing the boundless immutable principle in the least. And I'm calling it, sort of the ultimate God, the absolute deity, the absolutely transcendent one. It does have a kind of cause, whereas the boundless immutable principle does not have a cause. The causeless cause, think about that. We have to get used to thinking of things differently. It bothers the mind very much to think of anything without a cause, but thus is the boundless immutable principle causeless, because it's just nothing else. And for a cause to occur, you have to have a second, and this boundless immutable principle is essentially indivisible. So anyway, as a result of this all-transcendent, super-universal God, which is way beyond, I think, anything the Tibetan is normally discussing with us, or Blavatsky. As a result of that, you have the law of periodicity, which in a simple way works out as universe, no universe, universe, no universe, forever, and has been. And, the old question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? And I once thought I had figured that thing out, I figured, well, an egg. Well, the chicken has to lay an egg, maybe, but then due to mutation, out of that egg may come a lizard or something else, the whole idea of mutation. And so, perhaps the chicken comes first, but I'm not going to waste our time going after that one. I'm still pretty happy that it's slanted towards the chicken. Anyway, this law of periodicity that we talked about, and Francis has talked about that, when he went into the secret doctrine with the groups that are following what he's doing in such a good way. Actuality, relativity, illusion. These are the three things that result from the law of periodicity. In the boundless immutable principle, you can't even say in, there's no actuality, there's no relativity because there's no number, it's the no number, and hence there's no illusion. The minute you get into multiplicity, you've got yourself illusion, you've got yourself Maya, and all that. So one day we'll have to figure out how it is that the boundless immutable principle can indeed be immutable, and that word means admitting of no change forever, because change demands division, right? Change demands division. And you have there the one and only substance, which is indivisible, and I sometimes call it homogeneous. Does this mean it's like milk, and all the little clumps of cream are divided up? No, it means that it is seamless substance, if I can call it that. Admits of no change, and I'm going to just call it that if I can. Seamless. I want to get things out of the way here. Seamless substance. What is substance? Is it really matter? No, it's not. It is that which substands. And the boundless immutable principle substands all things with itself failing to be caused at any time throughout absolute eternity. Now, admittedly, these are abstract thoughts, but we have to ponder this, and maybe it'll make a difference in how we approach living. Okay. Now, let's see. There's other things here, but I'm not going to see what is the edge of the universe. Well, in a way, there is an edge, and it's the boundary of self-decided or self-limited self-perception. The whole thing is perceptual. A universe is a self-perception. That's one of the, think about that. Our universe is a self-perception. How big is the universe? As extensive as the perceiving universal deity decides to perceive itself, because that's all there is. It can't perceive the super universal of absolute infinity. Only the greatest God can do that, and that God is not even compared to the boundless immutable principle. That God is just about next to nothing. Okay, so there are some different mathematical formulas, but I'm not going to get into all of that. You can read about that if you want to. I can only say that there flashes forth at a certain point, cyclically, a ray of the absolute. And that ray of the absolute is flashed forth by the absolute deity, and it's flashed forth into limited objectivity. I almost said subjectivity. Well, it's flashed forth into an exiled state where it is alone and finite. And we are here existing, infinite though we are, within a great finitude whose size, and here comes the cruncher, whose size is next to nothing, the closest thing to nothing. So, if I'm talking nonsense, well, just think to yourself, he's talking nonsense. But if there's a possibility within yourself that you can detect just a little bit of what I'm trying to hint at here, then follow it out. Follow it out. And the whole universe is basically the flashing forth of the decided upon, well, we call it the ray of the absolute, okay? But in a way, the ray of the absolute is the transcendental super universal deity. So it's the flashing forth of a decided upon scope of finitude within absolute infinity. In other words, the great super universal deity decides these constituents shall compose the coming universe, and then having decided that and marked out a ring pass not, that ring pass not flashes forth as a ray, and we've got our limited universe right here, like forever, cyclically. Okay, now one thing I want to get to, because I know I'm kind of, cheating a little bit here, because I have to call this after, I have to call this after 11 o'clock. Now let's see. There are other laws here, and I'm not sure whether we dealt with these particular laws. I don't know if anybody remembers. I'm interested in yeah. Okay. Oh my. This is where we are, huh? Oh goodness, it takes a long time to go through this. Well, I'm not going to go through everything by any means, but the three cosmic laws with which we must become acquainted, you probably know. They are the law of economy, associated with the third aspect of divinity, the law of attraction and repulsion, associated with the second aspect of divinity, and the law of synthesis, associated with the first aspect of divinity. Now, we cannot talk about the way they might or might not be manifesting, if at all, in super universe. But within any universe, they do manifest, and they manifest from a very, very high level. And they certainly manifest from beyond our particular solar system. Hence, that which transcends our solar system is cosmic. And, sometimes even a planetary logos, or certainly a solar logos, is referred to as a cosmic being. So if we get into, what can they be called? Cosmic logoi. If we get into those unknown beings we call ones about whom naught may be said, if we get into cosmic parabrahms, like these 7 circles, and if we get into a cosmic parabrahm, which probably isn't as big as a galaxy, really, even, we are definitely into the realm where cosmic law is operating. Now, what difference does that make to us? Well, look, in our little life, it's very interesting. We have to learn and appropriate the light. That's the law of economy under intelligence. We have to love and harmonize, and that is the law of attraction and repulsion. And we have to see and understand all things as one, regardless of their apparent differentiation, and that is the law of synthesis. So they do apply right down here. And we know that even in our little egoic lotus, there are knowledge petals of the light, love petals of love and harmony, sacrifice petals leading to synthesis, and finally, even more synthetic loving centers, which are operative in the inner part of the egoic lotus. So to say, okay, well, these cosmic laws don't really apply to us is not really the right thing. They do apply to us. Okay. Now, okay, so we were going to, okay, so that's all I'm going to talk about that right now. There's other things if you want to read them in what is here. You're getting copies of them, and that may be enough to keep you going. Oh, but there's so much of interest here. Anyway, this is where I thought I would begin, but obviously I didn't. So just a little bit on this. There are 3 cosmic laws. Now, always watch out for the number 10, because wherever there's a 7, you're going to find a 10. Just like in the Kabbalah, Kether, Chochmah, and Bina ride as a trinity above the other 7, which are the Sephiroth. So, and wherever there's a 7, you're going to find a 3. And wherever there's a 3, you're going to find a 2. And wherever there's a 2, you're going to find a 1. And on it goes, expanding according to certain likely numbers, which give us the layout of any universe. So just now to have in mind, at first, because we're laying the foundation for understanding a little bit of our solar system, a little bit of the cosmic logos, a little bit of cosmology. We're just, expanding the mind. Now look, DK said, a treatise on cosmic fire, yeah, it's written on ray 3 and ray 1. Okay, well, we'll find the places where it's written on ray 1, because probably it has a lot to do with cosmic law, okay? And as far as ray 3 goes, there's a lot of intricacies which he presents, even though he tells us it's just the ABC. If you want to read through Esoteric Psychology 1 and 2, Esoteric Astrology, Esoteric Healing, and the rays and the initiations, that whole treatise on the 7 rays is written on the 2nd ray. It'll take you your whole life to do it and more, but that's okay. If you want to have a mind and an understanding like Master Kutumi or Master DK, one has to begin somewhere. So anyway, the 3 cosmic laws I just reviewed. Now, the next thing it tells us is that there are 7 systemic laws which govern the manifestation of our solar logos. Now, maybe they apply also to other solar logoi. A cosmic law is operative beyond the confines of our solar system, but a systemic law is particularly operative within our solar system. And these are 7 you should memorize, and the planets associated with them. However, if you really look at the 7 laws he's going to present here, you just get the idea that other solar systems are involved, and the kinds of things he talks about have to be happening beyond our solar system as well, and perhaps to much larger systems than we can imagine regarding our own. So the 3, however, somehow regulate the 7. And that's basically what I'm going to get into a little bit. And later he's going to explain what they are. Now, here's the suggestion I would make. Just open your minds to these vast issues, to these vast, vast subjects, which is just the ABC, and somehow have the faith that studying them will give you a greater understanding of your life as a disciple and as a emanated monad, as a tiny being that's been extended or extruded from pure being in a cosmos. Somehow it's going to be useful to you, okay? Otherwise, DK would not have bothered to present us with this. Okay, so let's see. And I've proposed the idea that an interesting theme for meditation would be to take each one of the systemic laws and relate it to one of the cosmic laws. I think it can be done. For instance, law number 2, systemic law number 2, it's really easy to see how the law of cohesion, the law of magnetic control, and the law of love, these are 3 of the 7, are all related to the law of attraction and repulsion, basically along the 2, 4, 6 line. You have to begin to think of the rays in a larger way. not just how they affect our personality or soul. That's interesting and necessary, of course, but we have to think of them as shaping the cosmic design, the systemic design, the cosmic design, the supercosmic design. You have to think of them that way. And then you'll get a very, very big picture of what may be going on. Okay, now here are the laws. And you're familiar with these, I think. And what can I say about them? Not too much right now. I'm not going to say too much right now because I want you to have a little chance to speak or question, in as much as this has been an extremely busy time for Tuya and me because of the esoteric United Nations and because of the festival week of the new group of world servers, and many of you have participated in that. So that being the case, I can only go so far, only so far. And if you stick with me until the year 2050, we're going to be finishing this book. And as a matter of fact, and that's a pretty important year, by the way, because the great decision, the second great decision in the 21st century is made at that time. And there's going to be another great decision made in 2099. So think of it, it's like a 49-year interval. 2001, great decision. 2050, great decision. And 2099, great decision. I don't know if any of us will be alive in our present form by 2099, but a lot of you younger people, I think, can make 2050, So, but you'll be back, and the work is extensive. Very first, the law of vibration. I'm simply going to, we know it applies on the cosmic physical plane, and it's associated with Vulcan. The law of cohesion, and I would just say that Vulcan is often a substitute for the sun, or the sun is said to veil Vulcan, and the sun rules the sea of fire. And in many ways, Vulcan, that volcanic planet, lots going on volcanically, so much fire on the earth at present. The Agni Chaitans are having a field day, but it's very dangerous, and we have to learn to control things. Law of cohesion, it's related to the monadic plane, and it's ruled by Jupiter. At least it manifests in our solar system through second-ray soul Jupiter and first-ray soul Vulcan. The law of disintegration, which will be later explained as DK gets into it, is a third-ray law, and it's ruled by Saturn. And we do know that the third ray is always, dividing one thing from another, and has the many in mind all the time, and maybe knows a way of getting to the one. I don't know, I suppose. But let's just say that scythe that, that Saturn carries, it tears things apart and puts them back together. So it is one of the great benevolences that forms are not allowed to persist. They do not persist. No form persists. If the universe is a form, it too does not persist. Okay, the law of magnetic control, particularly connected with solar angels, and it is a fourth ray law, and it's coming under the influence of Mercury, at least within our solar system. Now, actually, I would like to, I would like the colors to be a little more matching. I think I can do that. it doesn't mean that this violet color necessarily relates to every planet here, but at least it keeps things coherent. Now, law of fixation, you would get it, of course, obviously, it is it's a fifth ray law. And Venus as a soul on the fifth ray. But if we start talking about monadic qualities of these different planets, then everything is different. And, I've speculated, and friends of mine in the work have speculated about what are the monadic rays of the various planets. About some of them we're told, and about the Earth we're told it's a first ray monad, but it's a non-sacred planet. I'm just dealing with the sacred planets right now. Now this, well, so I said, but I'm not sure that's so. Let's just see, this law of love is coming under Neptune, and it appears to be a sixth ray law. Neptune is so many things. If you really want to see the effect of Neptune, you go to one of these maps that we have here, and let's take a look here, and we'll say the following, okay? That Neptune rules the astral plane. Neptune rules the Buddhic plane. Neptune rules the monadic plane. And Neptune as the apparent, though not necessarily actual, astral permanent atom of the solar logos rules the cosmic astral plane. I don't know how much farther we can take it, but let's just say that it's the same with Saturn. Let's just say Saturn rules especially the dense physical plane. Saturn rules the mental plane, especially the lower mental plane. Saturn as spiritual will rules the atomic plane, and Saturn is the actual permanent atom of the solar logos, the physical permanent atom. So you see Saturn, it's not just that old devil or whatever, applied to human understanding. It has great solar systemic significance. All right, and one more, the law of sacrifice and death. It is a seventh ray operation, and what is the planet with the seventh ray soul? That planet is Uranus. Now it has we're also told, by the way, that Uranus has the first ray monad, Neptune has the second ray monad, Saturn has a third ray monad. Maybe Saturn is the only planet to have the same monadic ray as it has the soul ray, maybe. Okay, well, we'll see how those things go. Different thinkers have different possibilities. But anyway, let's just say that what goes on within our solar system is much controlled by these 7 systemic laws, which we will deal with. And, as he talks about them, and maybe a little bit of what I've speculated here next time we get together. And we'll deal with the way that the 3 cosmic laws of synthesis, attraction and repulsion, and economy supervise the whole thing. And then there's that great law called the intermediate law of karma, and Syria, it's from Sirius, and there are other laws there of freedom and something about sensitivity and all that. So things don't necessarily get less complex even as they get simpler. And I know it seems a crazy thing to say, but if you're going to climb into the cosmos, you've got a lot more to deal with, even though in certain respects, a great simplicity takes over. All right, friends, obviously, just, yeah, if I start to talk about these things, I'm afraid I could talk the whole day. And, with us third-rate types, open your mouth and the thought will follow, hopefully. And hopefully a thought which has some value. Oh, yes, we're getting there. The third fundamental of the secret doctrine. Think of that one. All souls are identical with the oversoul. I guess you can't escape being the universal logos. I think not. Now I'm just trying to find out where we were. Here we are. Okay, because I want to mark it for next time. We'll be there. And beginning, and I don't know why it says identity. It's not correct. It's TCF. TCF. And it's webinar number 15. And it will be group webinar number 10. Okay. And this is the end of number 14. End of TCF number 14. No, up. Sorry, I'm in a rush, you know. And group webinar 9, and I forget when we did it long ago. But we will persist. Okay, now you have a little time to either ask questions on related material, say something, write something, if you wish, and I'll try to find, I hope, something happened. I wonder if you can still hear me. It looks like
yes, we still hear you.
Okay, I thought some kind soul or an errant press of the finger had eliminated me from the whole thing. Okay, so do you have anything you would like to ask or say? More people have joined us since we began our examination. Look, you know, this is thinking very big. It's just very big, and yet the bigness of it is just a drop in the bucket compared to what's really going on in the universe, and the universe is a drop in the bucket and less compared to the supra-universal state, which itself can be resolved into the ultimate point, which is ultimately next to nothing. It is the absolute infinitesimal, which can be and is periodically resolved into the absolute. Now, I know with humanity suffering so much and things being so bad and questionable when it comes to human survival and entering the Aquarian age a long way, the right way, you might say, well, you know, what are we doing here? Why are we taking all of these big concepts? But basically what I'm trying to develop in all of us is the real abstract mind. The real. So many people think that if they're just complex on the concrete level, they're into the abstract mind, and it isn't so. So this is part of building the Antikarana, part of the triad, part of altering your perspective on things. Altering your perspective so that you're not just seeing as a human being sees, you're seeing as the soul sees, as a triad sees, one day seeing as a monad sees. And you know, that is eminently valuable, because the role you can play in redemption and in general in help is much greater. Are there any questions or statements that you would like to offer? Or question? And look, don't feel like I don't know. Some people crazily begin their study of Alice Bailey with the Treatise on Cosmic Fire. I was not one of those, but once I got into it, well, you know, I have Cosmic Fire books that are literally disintegrating from overuse. So, you know, don't think you have to know everything. I don't, and I'm struggling along the way. Okay, who wants to speak?
Vera.
Vera.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not sure if I will be able to formulate. I vaguely remember from Cosmic Fire that on the third subplane of any level, there happens some division of the lower and higher. That's where the particles are gravitating either to the lower or to the higher. Would that relate to any of those laws?
Yes. The law of disintegration, and we have to remember too that the causal body or egoic lotus is found at first on the third subplane, and then is raised to the second subplane, where the love energy becomes so Buddhic, so insistent, so overwhelming that it contributes to the disintegration of that vehicle. So already on the third subplane, the outer knowledge petals are beginning to disintegrate, or the first part of moving to the second subplane. The law of disintegration applies. Now, it's also been shown in some interesting documents here and there, and I think if you know, in Masonry, you may find this kind of thing, that on the third subplane of the atmic plane is another vehicle. And that vehicle has to be destroyed under the law of disintegration, I suppose, in order for you to enter the monadic realm and have Johanic monadic awareness. So that's the place where all knowledge is found. And, you know, what we have seen about all knowledge, Keith Bailey made this thing up for us, for everybody really. And here is all knowledge, but he doesn't say what goes on Atmic 1, Atmic 2, in terms of subplanes. And you have to pass through them, and they are Johanic and 7th degree Johanic, even to a degree, before you can enter monadic awareness. So there's lots of things. Also, I would suggest, Vera, look at number 10. Look at Raised Initiations 10. It's always talking about, oh gosh, the wall of impenetrable darkness which faces the initiate 4 times. And that darkness has to be disintegrated or penetrated in order to reveal that which lies beyond. For most people, the egoic lotus, as beautiful as it may be and as noble, is a veil. And it's the temple, and the Christ helped us there by the veil of the temple being rent in twain from the top to the bottom at the 4th initiation. Okay, but that's not all. We in chapter 10, it shows us 3 other veils which the advancing initiate has to pass through. And those veils have to be penetrated, they have to disintegrate, and usually they are in the form of some kind of vehicle. Now, it's interesting that the Buddha left his triadal vehicles for the use of the Christ, but perhaps it is not always the case that the advancing, returning monad leaves the triadal vehicles intact. It just depends on what the future task may be. So there are going to be points of disintegration along the way, and that disintegration certainly is beginning at the 3rd level with Saturn and his separative or separating scythe. I guess that's the best I can do for the moment.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Vera. Okay. Other thoughts, friends? We have a little bit of time. We have a little bit of time, and I just want to say, it's a busy time, but we intend to persist with this cosmic fire. Look, I mean, when Alice Bailey was taking down cosmic fire, she was taking down the books within the book. You know what I mean? She said that such vistas appeared before her, listening to the Tibetan and writing it down, that none of that was ever written down. That was just what appeared in her consciousness as she was listening to level 1. So there's no question that still higher levels of apprehension and recognition and registration will appear to us as we look for the books within the book. And then, of course, in a way, the Tibetan has written one big book. And there are lots of books within that one big book. And they can make themselves felt according to pure reason and intuition to those who have learned to build the Antakarana. And not just build the first part of it, but the second part and the third part as well. Okay, other thoughts, other statements, questions, whatever, because I'm going to have to call it very soon. Sometimes there are these collisions, different things have to happen, and you just can't do everything at the full timing that you would like to do.
Michael?
Yes, Michael.
Very quickly, I would like to go through the schedule for everyone. You got the Soul of Nations tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. GMT, and then the Esoteric United Nations tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. GMT. On Sunday morning, you've got Attracting Money for Hierarchical Purposes, which is very important as well. And that's again at 6 a.m. GMT. And then Francis Donald is presenting the next edition of The Secret Doctrine at 8 p.m. GMT.
Right, and is that on Sunday?
That is on Sunday.
Yeah, that is on Sunday. And then our faculty will meet on Saturday right after the Esoteric United Nations, of course.
Correct.
But they know that.
Right. And if you're doing the Sun ingress into Aquarius, it's at 2:55 p.m. GMT, thereabouts.
On what day?
On Monday.
Okay, Tuya and I are still thinking about that.
Right.
And looking at what it is. And someone just asked, do we have this chart, Microcosmic Sensory Evolution? It's in Cosmic Fire. However, all of the additions of the various cities or powers which Keith Bailey put in there are not there. So, we would have to somehow share that with you. He's using it as an AUM chart, but I'm sure for serious students, he would be willing, so Joe will send a copy. I mean, after all, we're all in the same thing, no matter what different paths we're taking. Okay, friends.
And I
yes,
also have a chart of the senses based on that, which is done in Microsoft Excel.
Okay, fantastic. And I think Victoria has, with Bruce, did a lot of those charts in early days. I don't use them so much, but they are very good. And, we can, I'm sure, again, they wouldn't mind you having them to deepen your studies. Okay, friends, that's the whole thing. We're deepening our studies. We're expanding and deepening the abstract mind. We're knocking at the door of intuition. We're hoping that some little ray of spiritual will helps us live a purposeful life. And one day we'll recognize ourselves in monadic awareness, and may it not be too long. Okay, thank you very much. Email attachments will be sent. Joe, thank you, fantastic. and many blessings to everybody from the whole team that, that is here and or not here, and BL, Joe, and Michael, and Tuya, and myself, and Olivia, and whoever else may be part of the team. I lose track. But thank you for showing up, and let's continue to expand this whole thing and expand the heart simultaneously, and then we will have the dual curriculum of relativity and being and relativity simultaneously. See you soon. See you tomorrow morning with Tuya, and all the very best. I'll get this out to Michael and BL and Joe, and it'll be up on Makara soon, and pretty soon on the YouTube channel. A lot of these programs will be going up. I've been working on making that happen as well. All right, bye-bye now.